Hey everybody, this is Casey151 for drythebar.com. We got a really fun video this week. It's an introduction to this new format that has been incredibly controversial, and they're called Spin and Goes. Now, if you're not familiar with the Spin and Go, I'll give you a very, very quick overview. So they're available on Stars and Full Tilt. They've got different names. I think on Full Tilt they call them something like Jackpot Sit and Goes, and on Stars it's the catchier title of Spin and Go. And the format is somewhere between Six Max Hyper and a Heads Up Hyper. There are three players, all of whom buy in, and you get a sort of a random or apparently random prize pool according to the buy-in level. So, for example, if you buy in a $10 game, now that's three players buying in for $10 each. So that should be $30 in the prize pool, but instead only $20 goes into the prize pool most of the time. That extra $10 that's in play or that has been taken from the entrance in the sit and go towards bigger jackpots. So sometimes, say, I think the number is 2 or 3 every 100,000 tournaments or so, you'll have a massive prize pool of potentially tens of thousands of dollars just for your wee $10 entry or whatever. But the problem with that is, as you can see in point 4 here, there becomes the rake becomes unsustainably high because most of the time that $10 goes missing from the prize pool. So just to clarify, 3 players buy in, $10 each. That should be $30, but only $20 goes to this Sit and Goes prize pool. As such, you're actually paying an incredibly high rake. So effectively, there's a $10 rake being taken off the table, being taken from the 3 entrants. So of your $10 that you've bought in, only $6.67 actually goes into the prize pool for this Sit and Go. In other words, that's a 33% rake that's being taken from you, that's been taken out of this Sit and Go's prize pool every time that you don't catch a jackpot Sit and Go. Or a high tens of thousands of dollars entrance or prize pool. But of course, there's in between prize pools as well. So your $10 might go into a prize pool that's worth $60, for example. In which case, there's a great overlay, and there's potentially a really nice profit that could be made from it. So long term, unless you get incredibly lucky with your distribution of those high prize pool distributions, then it's going to be unsustainably high. There is no way that you can maintain a win rate to balance off a 33% rake. That is not going to happen. But that's not to say that the Spin and Go is totally worthless. I actually really like the format for training purposes, and the reason is there's no ICM, so we can just factor in the decision in front of us right now. That's the only thing that needs to go through the player's mind because of this winner takes all format. Also, the starting stacks are low. You start with 25 big blinds, tournament $500 at BB20, and the blinds go up relatively quickly. So there's an awful lot of potential action, and an awful lot of important spots could come up very quickly in this format. So I do like them for training purposes. I have enjoyed playing them. I know they're fundamentally probably quite bad for the game, although the long term we'll see to whether or not that plays out, because it might attract in a lot of soft money. We never know. They are sort of a magnet for weaker players because there's a real fun edge with the random prize pool generators in play. So first of all, we're going to look at a couple of hands in ICMizer just to show you how the prize pool, how the payout structure may affect your strategy. And then we're going to take a look at a short live session that I played in which I got incredibly lucky, and it was a whole lot of fun. So we're actually going to look at a hand that you're going to see that I played in the live session. It's ace-5 off, and I was in the big blind, and it was it was a really interesting spot. There's actually on the ICMizer webpage, on the ICMizer homepage, there's a really great mini tutorial and description of how to get the best from it for the spin and go format. So it's really interesting. So the first thing that we do now, I've plugged in the hand ace-5 off, and we change it to chip EV because there isn't a tiered payout structure. It's winner takes all. The blinds, it was a BB30, 3 players, hand ace-5. I'm in the big blind, and I need to find out what I can call. Now the small blind is not going to be as wide as 98%, but we need to get an accurate for about 17, 18 big blinds sort of range for him. Now I don't think we're going to see these big pairs, but I do think we might see some of these hands. Probably about here. He wasn't overly aggressive actually, so I'm going to give him this range. Let's go for it. And we're going to calculate it. And interestingly, I can't make that call profitably. I'm not sure if you can see that. Ace-5 off is ever so slight. Well, no, it's not ever so slightly. It's going to cost us nearly 5 chips long term if we're going to be making that call. It's pretty interesting. Ace-6 would be the borderline hand. And we'll check the Nash equilibrium for that. So villain would have to be pushing 43% for us to make that call, with 25% of holdings. Not a totally unrealistic range, but a little bit wider than I predicted. So really interesting, and note how different that will be to a more traditional 6-max sit and go. And I've actually, just for the purposes of displaying this to you, I've actually calculated this as if it were a traditional 6-max sit and go, paying 65% to 35%, in which case we would be on the bubble. We'd have ace-5, and villain would still be pushing that same Nash range of 43%. In fact, you know what? Let's pull it down to the 32% that I was giving him in that spot. I know that it was a few fewer of these and a few more of these, but yeah, we're not gonna get too bogged down in it. It's somewhere around there. And we'll see what Hero could call with only monster pairs, because the ICM tax is so high. And that is the difference between chip EV and ICM percentage EV. Huge difference. A complete change to your strategy, and it really warrants taking a bit of time and running some calculations. So that's just one hand example, but if you're interested, I'll be happy to run some more and make another video. But let's go into some action, and you'll see how we go through these decisions in game. Friends, we've got a spin and go strategy video for you today. Actually, I mean, I call it spin and go strategy, but we're playing it on the full tilt version of the spin and go. This time, rather than Poker Stars, it's exactly the same structurally. So any advice that I give will be transferable. So first things first, we'll just take a look at the buy-in and payout. $5 buy-ins on both tables, just for the purposes of making this vid. There's a bit of overlay on table 1 on the left, $20, so you can see each player putting $5, that's $15, and then there's another $5 in overlay. So a little bit of extra vig makes the value all the better. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said on the left-hand table. On the right-hand table, I should say, we all put in $5, but unfortunately 5 has also been taken out of the prize pool, leaving $10 in the prize pool overall. It won't make any difference to my strategy. It's winner take all, which is certainly a format that I love. I think for a 6-max hyper player and a heads up hyper player, anyone who's shown interest and is familiar with those structures, there's actually a lot of edge that can be gained in this spin and go format. Short stack play is obviously going to be a prerequisite. We're starting 25 BB deep, and it's going to get shallow pretty quickly. So let's fire into the action and actually we'll assess some spots as they come up. Now, on table 1 on the left, I flopped second pair with the club draw. I'm eager to get it in because we're unencumbered by ICM considerations. In other words, it's only when you have all the chips in play are they actually worth anything. That I'm happy to take finish spots. So certainly with second pair and a draw, I'd be eager to get it in, even though I know if I do get it in, I'll be up against top pair or the likes quite often. So I'm going to lead here, hoping Manda George will at least call, but ideally will raise, and then I'll be able to pop it in over the top. Even better, I could lead Manda George, might just shove it in there and then, and I would snap her off, but. Going for the lead, half pot would be right. I make it 20. Really should have made it 25 or 30 here. Not a great turn, actually, given that it didn't bring in my draw, and it actually means that some hands that I was beating on the flop are now beating me, i.e. 5x. So, not that thrilled with it. At the same time, I still think that I'm good here against what rates to be a wide range. You can see that Manda George is playing on her mobile, that little icon by her whole cards, and probably up for gambling it up a little bit. Probably not that advanced a player, just wanting to get a quick fix of poker. So I think fire another bullet. I can still get value from ace x, queen 10, king queen, etc. Nothing too big here. Hope I don't get raised now. And on the river, I'm not that stoked, but again, I can still get a bit of value from worse, I think. Maybe ace highs, maybe pocket threes, pocket fours. No call there, and I take it down. That's alright. Decent result. Won a reasonable sized pot, given that I only had second pair on a paired board. Wasn't the greatest. I think actually that's probably a good moment to stop and just think about how dynamic hand strength is in poker. Notice that on the flop, I was stoked about my hand. I was eager to get it in. One card comes down on the turn, and suddenly I'm pot controlling. Suddenly I'm a little fearful and definitely not thrilled to get it in. And that's the nature of poker. It's almost your hand strength is never discrete. It's never just X value. It's always X value in relation to the board, in relation to your opponent's range. Like, it's never just your hand strength, as in you're looking at a chart of hand strengths, and you can just decide, well, I have this hand, therefore I have a good hand. It doesn't work like that in poker, post-flop play in particular. It becomes your hand strength becomes relative to your opponent's range and to the board, and that's what happened there. It became very elastic, very dynamic. Seven deuce is going to be a clear fold. Gangstar on table 2 with a ninja avatar is actually the closest thing that I've encountered to a reg so far. Seems to have played a few games against not that I would consider a $5 spin and go reg to be particularly fearsome opponent. So I'm certainly going to fancy my chances to win both of these tables. Now, table 1 I opened 9-10 off. Pretty standard, I think. 25 or so BB effective, a little bit, couple fewer, maybe 22, 23 effective. I do have the position. I do have a flat hand that's going to flop okay. I do appear to have weakish opponents, given the way that Manda George played that hand when I had 9-6 suited just a couple of orbits ago. So just get a continuation bet and hope to take it down. Just go for the small size C bet because she'll probably fold if she doesn't have an ace or a big spade. And now it's give up territory. On table 2, Gangstar open min raise, sweet candy, flatted, and I just had a relatively simple pot odds call there as well, getting 5-1 with the ace. I'm just giving up on table one. I might get bluffed by maybe the king of spades or something, but that's okay. I mean, it's actually more like a value bet than a bluff, given that I've got total airball at the moment. At table two, just going to check round on the flop. Thing is, I would imagine if someone has a queen, they'll be fairly honest about it. They'll probably bet it. So I'm just going to check it round. And when it does check round, I actually think that maybe, just maybe, I could win this pot. Given that the big blind didn't lead that flop, which I assume she would have done with the queen. I don't know, can't say with any certainty, but this weak bet 40 into 120 certainly doesn't look like a queen. It looks like a pro bet, maybe a pocket fives, pocket threes, maybe I don't know, say a 7-8, something along those lines. I'm not sensing too much strength. Gangstar, I'm rather confident, would have almost certainly have bet that flop had he connected. So, or had he flopped top pair anyway. Most likely connected at all. The 6x and the 4x don't really fit his open min-raise range particularly anyway, so I actually think that I can probably win this pot with a raise, with a bluff raise here. I do have a gut shot as well. I'm unlikely to be drawn dead, so why not go in for a raise? I think it's a good spot. You can see my mouse went to hover over the fold button, but a little bit of research or thinking through the hand logically makes me believe that there's nothing to particularly fear from Sweet Candy's lead on the turn. At table one, limped into my big blind. I got king 10 off, a little bit shallower. I might have considered the jam, but as it is, I'm just happy to see a flop with a hand that's going to flop quite well. I've got top pair with the overcard. I could lead here for protection and for value. I think that's probably the best line. I could also consider the check call. Now, Sweet Candy did call my raise on table 2. Again, I'm thinking probably something along the lines of 5-7 or 7-8. Maybe even something like 6-7, 6-8, 6-5. Something along those lines. I'm not sensing too much strength from her. A check on the flop, a weak lead, and then a call of a standard size raise on the turn. And if she checks to me here, I'm gonna shove. She has checked to me, so I'm gonna shove this river 300 into 360. I'm just simply not believing that she's got anything of which I should be scared. So give her the pile here and get a snap fold. So I'm guessing, yeah, probably some kind of gut shot, or maybe pair with a gut shot. Weak pair. Queen 10 against Gangstar, 25 BB deep, just go for the limp. And I did lead for 2/3 pot on table 1. Rizza calls. Could be a lot of things. Could be a 10 jack, 10-9, 8-9. Unlikely to be an 8-7 or a 10-8. Unlikely to be a 2 pair. I'd expect to get raised if that was the case. So, bottom line is I'm probably good here, but I'm not thrilled about it. I'm going to proceed with a bit of caution. Probably throw out maybe like a little blocker bet on the turn. I don't really pick up any strength. I do fear, obviously, that 2 pair a little bit, and I do go for the blocker bet, and I will fold if I get raised. And again, I think another blocker bet might be in order here, actually. I seem to have been utilising that a lot. It's quite an effective tactic in short-handed sit-and goes, short-handed, small stack depth sit-and goes. I elected to check, and I think I could have got a bit more value from the 10 jacks and the 9-10s and things there. Maybe another 60 chips or so, but again, a decent sized pot with a hand that certainly wasn't too thrilled about. I'd like to see what he had. Oh, good. I did look. 5-4 suited. Okay, so gut shot with the flush draw. Let's go in with a straight shove on table 1 just to keep that pressure up. 7-9 is probably not good enough to go for a little steal there with Rizza having such a beautiful rejam stack size, but I'm happy with how things have gone so far. I've built up a lead on both tables, which is of course great news, and I'm hoping to really make that count. Now, table 1, I flop top pair, no kind of kicker. Again, I just think a lead here, and It will be unfortunate if I get raised, but I'll have to go with it against Rizza. He's just too short. If I lead for say 50, and he jams it in, it's I'll be getting nearly 2-1 with top pair in this format where you're not paying an ICM tax to preserve your tournament life. Then I think that'll probably have to be the way I go. So I'll lead, make it 60, 2/3 pot. And that's that. Table 2, we have our first all-in confrontation, and I think it was a coin flip. Sweet Candy actually got in very, very, a big size pot. Well, maybe not actually. I think she only had about 10 BB at the start of the hand, so maybe not. Table 1, I turn 2 pair, and again now that Rizza has barely over pot, I'll just be looking to make it a small bet here, maybe about 90, 80, somewhere around that, and just hope that I can chunk it in, get the rest of his money on the river. Not for a second going to be concerned about being beat here. 90 looks good here. I hope that's what I stick with, and indeed I do. Just about 40% pot. Yeah, unfortunately no action. Probably second pair, maybe some kind of draw. Just thought it best to give up. Ace-6, borderline. Let that go, just because I don't really need to. I don't feel. Amanda George makes a very loose call, not very good at all. But I'm now, I could have made that call. Certainly make an argument for it, and it might be one to look at later. This format's pretty new for me, so I haven't yet decided if. I haven't yet encountered all the eventualities, all the possibilities. So we'll look at some in ICMizer later. Now, table 2. Now that we're heads up against Sweet Candy, who's been a little bit volatile so far, we'll certainly be looking to take this down. I don't think there's too much to fear from this opponent. I go in with a min raise and get a small 3-bet, and now I have a kind of tough decision. I can't really come over the top, I don't think. I don't know Sweet Candy's 3-bet range, but the pot odds are great. Getting 3-1 in position with a hand that's going to flop okay. I think a call here is fine. It is 10% of my stack. 60 chips to make that call, so it's kind of borderline, but I really hate to just raise fold in the first hand and give up that momentum. And now obviously with top pair I'm delighted. I'm just going to call here, I think. Pot control it a bit, wait for a safer turn before committing too many chips. And that's a good turn. I'll just give her the pile right now, I expect. Just shove it in. And she folds. And on we move. Table 2, Ace-6 suited. Certainly about the 15 BB mark. 17 BB definitely going to be good enough to reshove over the top of a min raise. And we're really keeping that pressure up over Sweet Candy. Now bear in mind, Sweet Candy had been extremely active in the sit and go to date. But when we've got to heads up, we've actually been the aggressor. So, I mean, I've said this a million times, heads up, but I think it's really important to reiterate, and I'm sure I'll say it again before long until you're sick of hearing it. But heads up, you can either be the pigeon or the statue. And if you suspect for a second that you're being the statue, then unfortunately you are going to have to change that immediately. You can never permit yourself to be the reactor, to be the second in command. You must be the one calling the shots. You must be the one making the aggressive moves and putting your opponent to tough decisions. You, in short, have to be in charge, heads up, and that means being more aggressive than your opponent. If your opponent is being more aggressive than you, then guess what? You just need to get right back in their face with even more aggression. King Queen table 2, again, just going in right over the top of that min raise, no question about it. Table 1, Amanda George, open limps, not for the first time. Given that she's sitting with 9 BB, excuse me, it is going in. I'm not going to mess around too much. I'm just going to give her the pile pre-flop, pick up some more chips and move on. And ace-10, exactly the same strategy. Just going to go for it. Table 2, I completed, and now I'm going to stab on any flop with my old 10-3 offsuit and hope to take it down. And I get limp called by Rizza08. A strange line from him, if I'm honest, but I sure ain't complaining. And we take that one down, and we move on to another heads up. So we're going to have lots of action. Table 2. Again, pocket deuces. Sweet Candy loves to min raise. She's gone for the old raise call with the queen 6. All right, and I flop well and take it down. That was relatively painless. Wish they were all like that. And table 1, just going to straight shove it for about 6-7 BB. Yeah, about 7 BB. Nine 4. Villain's got 5 and a bit BB. Just go with a limp. Actually, 9-4. I think Nash-wise wouldn't even like it. No, Nash doesn't even like it. It's about 3 BB. But I'm not overly fussed with Nash, mainly because I think Manda George is playing significantly tighter than Nash would suggest. So I'm not having much to fear. We got another $10 winner take all on table 2. Good username in Ruby Tuesdays. Let's see what you're doing there, Ruby Tuesday. And we jammed it in for the last few BB against Manda George. I mean, sure, you could argue we got lucky there, 10-5 beating Ace King, but I don't think so. Given that Manda George was down to 3 or 4 BB, I mean, what else was I going to do there? Now, table 1, we've got a simple c-bet with our pocket 7s. If we have any resistance, we'll give up on that board. I don't think that's the time to get it in too light, but happy enough. I'll just keep up our aggression. Note that I've been extremely aggressive so far, unencumbered by ICM pressure. I actually love it. I don't need to worry about very much. I just keep on getting aggro on them. I think this is a mistake at table 2. A bet called with the Jack 7, 2 overs and a gut shot. Maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe I should have shoved it in. So when it comes in for 20, I think I'm going to shove it now. Try and take it down. Apply some real pressure. Yellow Boy just doesn't look very strong with his click back min raise and his tiny bet on the turn. Now I've just brought the footage back a split second just to see what went on table 1. So villain raising into us, we got ace-8 suited. We could certainly flat. Wouldn't be too big on a medium-sized 3-bet, just because villain would have the opportunity to act first post-flop, which would mean, if there's 200 in the pot and he's only got 300 behind, that gives him a chance to actually just straight jam and maybe take me off a hand with a bit of showdown value. So I think if I'm going to 3-bet here, I think I'm going to give him the pile, go for stacks. And that would be my default. I tend to go with the aggressive option because, again, like I said, we don't need to be cagey. We don't have to worry about ICM. We run into a bigger hand. Still, I don't mind. I'm happy with my play. We get lucky. We suck out on villain. And so now we've got another heads up. Jack 3 is good enough for a raise, 25 BB deep, for 22 or whatever we are deep. And on table 2, we've got an interesting spot. In fact, both tables we've got interesting spots. Let's deal with the heads up first. So we min raised pre-flop. We met with a call. We're deep stacked. We'll certainly be c-betting this. We expect the 10 and the 8 and the drawy nature, the connected nature of the board to hit villain a decent amount. But I want to c-bet this so I could give myself the full range of options to continue with a bluff if I so desire. Table 2, open raised ace-8 off from the button, flop second pair, but we've got 2 callers, the jack, it's connected. This board really definitely hits villain ranges pretty wide, so I'm a little concerned with that. I don't think a c-bet would be the best line here, but we'll give it a go. Table 1, it's definitely the best line, no question. I'll see that all day long. The checks to me, I think I've just gone for the check back. Yeah, I have gone for the check back on table 2. Don't like that turn card either. I could have c-bet it. It was a really close run thing. If someone comes out firing, I'll probably get out of the way unless it's a small bet. Again, I'm not fearing too much here. I'm playing this pretty nittily, but the board just keeps getting worse and worse. I'm happy enough to just lose this pot, to just give up on it with my 4th pair. My decision to not c-bet was actually what defined that hand. And king high bet the minimum in an attempt to win it. Oh, I picked up a few extra chips. I really gave my opponents every opportunity under the sun to hit there. Fortunately for me, no one did. No one seemed to. Yellow boy comes in with a min raise, a small 3-bet from Danko, and suddenly my king jack is no good. Table 1, we see a limp from Dan, and I just 3x it over the top. He calls, flop an airball, but I'm still going to c-bet. He's getting a bit short now to be able to splash about and make too many moves. I expect him to be pretty honest post-flop, which suits me, of course. The fact that Dan flatted my c-bet is of course bad news. Now this is a really interesting river card because it goes check check on the turn. So by this stage he called flop, he limp called pre-flop, he called flop, and then he checked behind turn. So I'm expecting maybe something like Jack 10, maybe something like 8-9, maybe something like 7-8. I expect him to have a small piece of equity on this flop and again on the turn. Now I've got the king here. I should be value betting this. Just about half pot. I don't really, maybe a little less, 90 to 120. I don't expect him to have a queen very often, so I need to size it so that 7x and 10x will call, but not so large that they'll fold. I think that I can bet roughly 100 here and expect to get action from worse. So that's what I'm going to do. Go for a half pot. Maybe a hair too big here. I'd like to see it about 100, but I get called, and presumably he did have a 10 or a 7. I don't know for sure, but I'm delighted to get full value for my river top pair. Long may it continue. I wish that I had checked what he did have actually. It would have been interesting to see. Jack 6 BB. I don't think Nash will like it. I was right on the cusp. Nash says 5.4. But I wouldn't be that keen on calling strict Nash range here anyway. And table 2, we got a clear squeeze all in against Yellow Boy and Danko. No suck out is too great for me today, although 6-4 against ace deuce. So I must have had 42 or so percent equity, 44. So I'm not in bad shape at all. So I'm happy enough to fire on with it. Take another one down, and we'll get into another one. These jackpot sit and goes on full tilt, or they're called spin and goes in PokerStars. Really interesting, very enjoyable. So we've got another $20 game here on full tilt, which is good. A little bit of overlay, I like that. And notice that Dan on table 2, the same villain that we were playing a minute ago, on the different table, is it? The same guy? I really wish I could remember. He started coming in with the big jams for 20 BB. So flop trips, I'm going to bet that, obviously. Half pot's good. He's taking a sweet time about it, but he check calls. King X, maybe? I don't like the diamonds, but I'm still going to bet it. His range is a lot wider. Queen 10, King X. He check min raises, and this is pretty obscene. There is something about the check call, check raise that looks decidedly worrisome from an opponent who hasn't seemed to have many moves in him to date. Tuffy. especially because, of course, the flush card hit. I really fear the flush here. I also fear trips to an extent, but I'm mostly in fear of the flush. But that said, I do have trips myself. I'm still in great shape a lot of the time. It's really tough, and he just leads out with a big jam for pot. I played this a couple of days ago, and I can't really remember what I did. But I tell you right now, I would not be surprised to find a fold here. This is pretty obscene. It's a really, really gross spot. I just can't see what he's doing this with. It didn't seem like a bluff. Although the pace with which he jammed the river does have a little bluffy implication, but is it a bluff? Is it value? Tough. I wouldn't be surprised to see me fold here. The call. I need to be good. 420 to win 780. Very, very tough. Am I as good as ahead nearly half the time? Forty odd percent of the time? I don't think so here. I'm talking myself into a fold. Ugh. Imagine folding trips in a spin and go. You can see that I'm really, really weighing up the fold. This would be a hero fold beyond belief. I don't recommend that you go folding here, if I'm honest. I think I should fold here, but I don't recommend that you do it. And the reason is, the hero fold is such an expensive mistake when it is a mistake that it's generally not even worth doing. But I've gone for it. Ugh. And one hand later, and I've lost the single. It makes me wish that I had called there. Still, overall, pretty happy with how I played. I'd be really interested to see what you think about the fold there on the river. Am I a total fishbowl? Should I have folded? Should I have called? I don't know. Who cares? It's in the past now. Let's move on. Let's get into another game. So far, our batting average has been really good. I know you get nothing for second, but I think that was the first one that we haven't won. Finishing second to a coin flip is, it's never. It sucks because you don't earn any money, but it's not like a bad achievement there. But for the grace of God and all that, just a flip. Queen 3, a raise into Betty Boop. I hope for a bit of action. We'll just keep on taking it down. I mean, I'm not. A part of me really loves this format. It's a shame that the rake is so unsustainably high, or it's so impossible to beat long term, because this format is great. It really plays into my skill set. A lot of small ball, a lot of good or maybe bad reading opportunities in my opponents. Just going to come out with a pot size lead on the turn, trying to fold out ace high, which I fear is a big part of Betty's range here on table 2. I think if I bet half pot here, Betty would call in a heartbeat, but by potting it, I think I generate so many more folds, and I need to. As it is, I don't generate a fold there. I'm going for it again. Look at that, 120 and 150. Listen, I'm nothing if not consistent with my reads. I fully believed that Betty was weak there. I fully believed that I could get her off it, and I put some serious money behind it. I took it down, which is always pleasing, but the outcome doesn't actually matter very much. It's more about my decision making based on the evidence and the feel at the time. People often ask me the difference between feel players and sort of stats based players or whatever, and there actually is very little difference. It's just the term feel has been misappropriated or misunderstood by the general betting public. over the years. Feel is an accumulation of your experience and insight. That's all it is. When you're a good player, when you're an experienced player, a long-term winning player, your feel can be trusted. Because it's based on those stats. It's based on non-judgmental experience and an accumulation of your expertise. So although I'm not looking at stats at the moment, I'm using feel, for want of a better word. In a way, I am actually using stats in that I'm using sort of lifetime stats. I'm using the tendencies of my opponents and myself based on the accumulation of my history in poker. So while you may not see a HUD in front of you, I still think that when I play without a HUD, I still get the upside of having played with a HUD for years and years. I think that's very important. The HUD only truly becomes worth its weight when you're playing regs day in day out, and you have to try and eke out slim edges the rest of the time. I'm more than happy to just play these sessions without a HUD. Okay, interjection over. Let's get back to table 1. So we've got a straight shove for 15-17 BB effective from Wabakin. Very close one. ICMizer would like it. It's going to be positive EV, but I don't know about making the call. It's definitely going to be positive EV. I probably should make it, but I'm not sure about it, to be honest. I'm not sure whether I need to risk my edge here. I've got a lot of equity in this tournament, more than 33%. I'd expect to win this tournament from these positions about 1 time in 2, and I did go with a fold. What a net, but I don't mind that. Betty leads into me on table 2, and I'm just not going to bother fighting with the ace-3 off. No pair, no draw. Just no good. And I'll fold again. Betty's very, very active, and I'm just eager to find a situation in which I can make her pay. Just take it down with a simple lead on table 1. And I'm raising at Betty again. I'll see bet again. I expect to take it down most of the time here. There's not a whole lot to fear from this opponent. If she has something, she'll quickly let me know about it. She doesn't have enough chips to mess about too much. On table 1, I'm just going to raise the limper Waback and see what he wants to do. Table 2, Betty stacks it in. Most likely a king, but either way, I am done. A lot of people would mind that. They would feel that they're spewing chips. They would feel that it's pretty bad play to be making these little speculative small ball stabs. But I disagree. There does reach a tipping point in every sit and go at which you can't afford to make those stabby plays anymore. But I don't feel that we're there yet. In fact, I don't feel that we're even particularly close to it. Until a speculative play starts costing like 10% or so of my stack, then I'm happy to just continue with a small ball. And not every time, of course, but when I feel there's a profitable opportunity, then I'm gonna continue with it. And on table 1, I did raise Waback and he did limp call, and I'm just gonna c-bet and expect to take it down most of the time. I've repped serious strength. I don't think that he's necessarily good here. I could shove this on table 2 over Betty's limp, and Betty has been limping a lot, and I have gone for the shove, and I'm really glad to see that I did go for that. That shows decent sensitivity to the dynamic of the game. Again, I'm not playing with a HUD here, so I don't know for a fact, or I can't pinpoint the exact number of times that Betty's limp folded, but I know it's been quite a lot. I know that she's a weaker player, and I know that I'm going to get my King 10 through with enough regularity to make it a profitable line. Therefore, really, really simple. So this is going to be a 2-part video. I will wrap it up pretty soon, probably in the next 5 minutes or so, for part 1, and then we'll do part 2 next time out, and hopefully you're gonna enjoy it a lot. I really love this format. It's fun. I know as a sit and go player, I shouldn't be encouraging you to play a format that's going to be unprofitable long term. And I'm not necessarily encouraging you to play it, but I do feel that at the moment, before they get kind of solved, or while there's still a lot of fish in these games, or certainly some soft money in them, then there's no harm in splashing about with them a bit. Hope you get lucky with the multiplier, and it's not all, these massively rake heavy games. Easy rejam table 2 against Gangstar. Gangstar, who's been in a few of our games so far. Table 1, I'm just going to go in with a shove again for about 15 BB. We're back in. I don't know, he's limp called my raise once already. He just loves to open limp. I felt that it was ahead of his range. I felt that I could get it through most of the time. Just need to hold, and hold I do, and it's, again, a 55-45. Happy enough with that. Table 2 against Betty. Just going to bet strongly with the straight flush draw, and now we've got the straight, we're going to pop it in on the river. If we run into a straight, okay. We get into an all-in against Malaya, and can't make it count this time, but it was definitely worth the risk, given that I could have ended the tournament right there. Let these two duke it out a bit. We're back in Malaya. I got nothing here. Pocket 3s is going to be a call for 8-9 BB, 9 BB. Bear in mind, I never lose flips, so it's practically a certainty that I'm going to win that. And win it, I do. If only it was always this simple. Just win every all-in. Gangstar min raises again. Ace Queen. Nothing to fear against this opponent. Heads up. Ace Queen's going in. Run into Ace 7. Cool. Get in ahead again. And fade again. So another win. Nice. I think we've won 4 from 5 so far. Is that right? Maybe it's not as many as that. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. We're doing well. And long may it continue. Actually, maybe this will just be a one-part video. I'm not sure if there's enough footage to warrant going into a second part, so I think we'll just make this video a little longer. I don't want to give you a mini vid when there's no point. We'll just, if you can stay with me in terms of concentration, then great. Wabakin's made a Lazarus-style recovery from 20 or 40 chips all the way to 450 now. I don't really care which of those two gets the chips. I'll happily play either heads up. Ideally, I'd get all the chips. But let's not get greedy. King 6 will clearly go in for 5 BB against Malaya. Nothing to fear. As it is, Wabakin gets in there first, and they play an all-in. Malaya makes a call with the old 5 high. Optimist. And we finally have a heads up again against Wabakin. Let's try and take this down for a good streak, for a good end to this vid. Let's hope we did it. It was played a few days ago. I honestly don't recall, but it's quite lucky. I only shot one set for this video. A lot of the time you'll find coaches making videos and they do really well, and the viewer thinks, oh, it's so simple, look, that player's so good, but what they don't show you is the 14 other sets that they didn't decide to use because they played terribly or they got owned or whatever. But we've not had that issue with this. I think this is the only set that I've recorded, and it's going well so far over a minuscule sample. But hopefully you're getting the idea that these games can just be fun, and there is strategy to them. They're not a total gamble fest, and most importantly, the player pools have been obscenely soft so far. Okay, that long-winded philosophizing. Let's go back. We've got bottom pair, no kicker, a simple bet fold situation. No real reason to play it any other way, I don't think. We'll let Wabakian worry about us rather than us worrying about him. I could shove this actually for 12 BB. Oh, what do you know? That's what I've done. He does love to limp call with pretty wide range. I think King 4 is going to be good enough to go for it. So go for it we do. Could straight shove this for 11, but I actually favour small balling it when we're in position. And it's only when we're out of position that we really get a bit more inclined to making the to making the big all-in plays. And now we have to actually worry a bit about his range. I think it's time to give up. That's a horrendous turn card. Similarly horrendous river. I don't think anything that called on the flop is now going to fold. Maybe a 3x. I think it's give up time. And he had the straight. So he did have 3x on the flop. Pretty happy that I chose not to play it. Yeah, he did. Just for clarification, he did have the straight there. So he trap checked on the river, and I'm pretty glad I didn't fall into that trap. That board was just too wet, and the fact that he called on the flop just led me to believe that the only thing that I could fold out that calls on that flop, the only thing I could fold out by the river would be a bare 3x. But that 3x turned into a straight, and I didn't make that play, so I'm happy. Didn't cost me much. Right, we're back in. What do you got here? He limps. I'm just going to pop it in again. We're 10 BB deep, so I'm not really seeing much need to go with the really sort of elaborate plays. That said, going for the min raise here at like 9 and a bit BB. 8 and a bit BB, and get everything I deserved there. He rejammed on me. Really not a good play for me. Teeing him up, putting the cross into the box and letting him have the glory of volleying it into the net. That's suited. 12 BB. Go for the limp. Small ball him. Easy fold. Thanks. He made it easy for me. Alright, back to evens. Doesn't affect our strategy at all. Just going to keep on trying to small ball him and play a bit more fast when we're out of position. In position. Lots of limps and stabs and good reads. That's the plan. Easy bet. Lest I take my 9 high to showdown. Generally not a great idea. I think that's a call. Well, maybe not actually. It would be against most players. This guy's actually not been going in with the big plays like that very often. So I give him credit that first time. Probably had like an ace deuce, an ace 3. I don't think it's quite enough. And now we're getting a bit shorter relative to the blinds. It does seem to be playing that a bit faster. So maybe it was a poor fold for me. I don't think so. I don't think it's ever a poor fold. Maybe suboptimal. Straight shove this, I think, just for the change of pace. Now we're below 10 BB effective, and unfortunately run into a bigger hand. But there is no bink too great for KC151. I get lucky, but I would play it the same way again. My decision was good. So pretty happy with how that went. That's how you do it in spin and goes. Ideally, you'll be able to suck out lots in your opponents like I did. But I think that as long as the decisions are good, and as long as you're not passing up too many of these thin spots, when the stats get shallower and your skill edge becomes less pronounced, then there will be a way to play these, if not profitably, at least not at such a loss as the massive rake would suggest. But first and foremost, I just think they're fun. I think they're actually a great format to improve your range reading skills and to take advantage of weaker players. If you do seem to be up against weaker players on regular occasions, or you are looking to bridge that gap between 6 max hypers and heads up hypers, then these are a great training ground. And that's the main way that I'm using them at the moment as a training ground to improve decision making under under no ICM pressure. So hopefully you've enjoyed this vid. As always, I'd be delighted to chat with you. You know the various ways to get hold of me, just via Twitter at Casey151, on the Dry the Bar message boards, or private message me, or find me on Skype. Just search Casey151. Okay, as always, it's an absolute pleasure. This is Christy Keenan for drythebar.com. Bye bye.